joining us here as the head coach of that team and also a good friend from the NFL Network and part and parcel of SeatGeek here this Super Bowl week. Good to see you, Brian Billick.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, that's an applause line. I mean, I know he's not on Curb Your Enthusiasm yet. Although he has been on Match Game. A round of applause for the guy.
How many people here remember the Match Game? See, it's too young an audience.
No. Do you remember what your Match Game clue was? Do you remember what the blank was that you had to fill?
People make a mistake when you say the Match Game. They a lot of times think of like the dating game. This was when they had the panel of 6 people up there, and they give you a sentence and leave it
the blank.
Yeah, and Gene, he had the phallic big microphone, and the whole night thing.
The Gene Rayburn microphone.
I did not get a single point.
You didn't get a point?
Not a point.
Yeah, I mean, the old Match Game was, old man Belichick brought his team to the Super Bowl and took on the Rams and went blank. And then you had to fill in.
In my defense, though,
yes,
it's the questions. If you hear the questions now, and it's great because my daughters were the first time. Now, I promise you,
yes,
I don't go a month that someone doesn't say, here I've accomplished a few things. I've won a Super Bowl. I've done a career for 40 years. The Match Game. I remember you. That's not. It doesn't go a month.
Are you serious?
No.
And here I am bringing that up
again
with the trophy that you've lifted before, sitting in between us.
You'd think that would be the thing people would remember.
One would think.
In fact, I appreciate your intro where they said, former Super Bowl winning head coach. Because now more and more, you don't realize, I've been doing this for about 12 years now.
Yes.
Meaning the network thing, and I did games for Fox, and of course with the network, and working with you, and people will, more and more I'm introduced as a network analyst, which I'm cool with.
That's fine.
Although I was in Europe, and some fan came up and said, "Didn't you used to be Brian Billick?" Well,
what is?
I kind of think I still am.
What does that mean?
I like you used to be somebody, but now you're just some slappy here in Europe.
Slappy.
You're
just a European slappy, like everybody else in Europe. I've been quoting you many times in recent days because this is one of my favorite lines and I'll set you up on it. Whenever people say Bill Belichick is going to take away the one thing you do best, and then you say,
compared to the rest of us that obviously covered the decoys. It never occurred to us, the other coaches, that no, we're going to take away what you did best. But you got to give Bill credit. His because obviously I've always said we got to change this to the New England Patriot Invitational. They're here so often. And you look at it, and coaches, what truly is the difference? You're listening to you and Steve talking about, because obviously Bill Belichick is maybe the greatest coach that's ever lived. He's been brilliant. And the rest of us do try, and you kind of look at, well, what are they doing that maybe we can do? But that laser focus, that attention to detail, and it goes part and parcel too, that it's easier to make that second million than the first million, right? So once you've got that going and you then have the latitude to build on that and do those types of things. So there's a lot of things that he and the organization can do that it would be tougher to do as another coach in another circumstance until you build up the street cred, so to speak, to be able to take these steps that they do and get the players to come play. But there's no denying, although maybe I'd be interested in seeing what you think.
Yep.
And just watching, I came in yesterday and watching the whole media thing that they do. They seem much more relaxed.
I'll tell you the one thing I try not to do in the 16 now Super Bowls that I've covered is to try and glean Sunday's result from the demeanor behind a microphone because of two things. One is I've seen, they look relaxed and then they get curb stomped. And I also don't want it to seem like we in the media are such a crucial factor in how things play out. I don't ever want to, because the whole concept of Super Bowl distraction, we're always talking about it in the media because that, in a way, does justify. Yes, you're listening to us and we're talking about it. So we're part of the distraction, even though the distraction may not be a distraction. We're talking about it until you admit, damn straight you're going to admit it's a distraction, because otherwise, what are we doing talking about distraction?
That's right.
So
it's like trying to figure out the outcome on it and based on pregame warm-up. I gave that up real early. There was times I'm thinking, boy, we're going to kick it, and we just got the dog kicked out of us. Or it was like, God, we're dropping balls, and then we come out and have a great game. So it's kind of
that said, as the setup, seeing Brady, he's kind of like now taking it in. Like, I'm
And
a
Belichick
41
as
year,
well.
like they're kind of like,
The ultimate.
how tough they've, gosh darn it, been here now 9 times as a tandem. And obviously the Patriots, a 10th time, you include the time with Belichick. I mean, as a defensive coordinator for Parcells with Bledsoe, that I think they're taking it in like it's their first. And I'm wondering if that means something significant,
And would never in any way intimate that their focus isn't going to be there, and
No.
that work ethic that we know them to have. But part of it may be that, one, they're playing on house money, Belichick and Brady, because it's like, the last couple times they've been here, what does this mean for the legacy? Well, we've zoomed so far past that. I mean, why wait for the 5 years? Just give them the gold jacket now.
Right.
I mean, why wait for 5 years after they retire?
Mm-hmm.
But Bill, what's Bill? 67, 68?
Look that up, Chris. I think he's right
about
on
the same age.
Yeah, no, right. In terms of quarterback years, yes.
So I don't think it's unrealistic to recognize, as someone who's gone through that progression a little bit, is that they're at that stage in their life where they may not be there, but they can see it from here, and they do recognize, and they've got such legacy that there's absolutely nothing can happen in this game that can tarnish that legacy. You're kind of playing with house money. That gives you a comfort zone to relax in a way that's probably a good thing.
What's the
66, twice as old as McVay.
Yeah, it's twice as old as McVay. That's unbelievable. So let's get into the X's and O's here. Yeah. Obviously it's every single snap is different, and that's why Belichick has that laser focus to try and prepare for the variables and control them in real time best he can do. What do you think is going to be the key for Super Bowl 53?
Steve talked about it in the show that you're have Sean O'Hara here on. He's my buddy on Playbook, which I really enjoy doing for the network because it really is X's and O's.
Yep.
It draws me back into the film. I haven't for a long time, like I have now for Playbook, where on Mondays and Tuesdays, I mean, I get every game. I've got it on the computer that I see sideline, end zone, and so it kind of draws me back into all of the games that I can look at and say, well, what's making the difference here? And when you go back and look at the tape the way I have, the matchup, L.A. matches up very, very well across the board in virtually every aspect, that if you want to look at it just from a technical standpoint, from an X and O standpoint, you can see the matchups that, boy, L.A.'s got a chance here. L.A.'s got a chance here, whether it's the defensive line in that interior with Sue and Donald. The back end, I think, can match up in a different way than they did with Kansas City. Not like anybody can match up with Tyreek Hill, but I think the talents of Peters and Talib match up pretty good with the style of the passing game that Brady has. Offensively, what they can do, their ability to run the ball, I think we're going to see a good, solid run effort, not only from C.J. Anderson, but Gurley's pretty good, and particularly out of the backfield as well. So everything matches up. But because of what we just talked about earlier, I mean, I grew up in L.A., and I grew up a Rams fan. And I can sit here and give you a dozen reasons why my Rams, I've got a lot of good friends that John Fossil coached for me in Baltimore. He's, I think, the best special teams coach in the league and could make the difference. That's a very good matchup.
Sure.
Jed Fish is on there as well, was with me in Baltimore. So I got a lot of reasons to pull for the Rams, and I am, and they're going to win. But if you want me to put money on it, no, I'm going with the Patriots, and no, because I'm tired of getting beat up, and every time I go, I find a reason not to go with Brady and Belichick. It costs you every time.
Well, I mean, the way you talked about being from Los Angeles and rooting for the Rams, you sound like a referee from the NFC Championship game, Brian.
Here we go.
I mean, because
so you're part of this conspiracy theory, huh?
I am not. I think it's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard, honestly.
You may get called in on the lawsuit. They could.
No. I thought that was just, and then there's folks who are saying, well, it's just, I'm not saying that the referees blew the call because they're from Mission Viejo, 70 miles away from the Los Angeles. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's a bad look. Well, then what is the bad look if you're not saying that they were on the take because they love L.A.? They love the Randy Newman song. So what are you saying? So we're going to sit down officials because of where they're from?
No.
Because it's a bad look, even though I'm not saying the bad look actually is something that is bad,
There were
other than just the
games-
look. I mean, it just makes no sense.
When I was doing games for Fox, which I really, really enjoyed, and getting to go in every Friday and sitting and watching practice and visiting with coaches and players, and as a former coach, I'm done coaching. But if I were to go back, I would be a better coach just for that experience, because you're sitting. Can you imagine sitting in your competition's boardroom and to watch how they practice and the strategies? It was a fascinating experience. But there were a couple times where I remember sitting and we were visiting with the PR guy, and practice was going on, and we were in a room that overlooked the practice field, and he gets up and he shuts the blinds. And it's like, no, so like you're saying, so what are you saying? You think I'm going to call the opposing coach, and he doesn't need me to tell him this is what you're going to do. He's prepared all week. But there was some places where it was kind of like, we'd prefer for you not to watch practice. And so you're intimating that I might be that unprofessional, which I got it. It was cool. But it was, so exactly what are you saying?
What are you saying if you're not saying? You're just saying. That's the 21st century phrase. I'm just saying, which is our caveat for saying exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
If you're saying, I'm just saying,
it's like
you
what
really
they
mean.
say, everything before the word but is BS.
That's
right. You lay it all out, the reason. But, okay, so what you just spent the last 20 minutes saying, obviously you don't believe.
With all due respect.
That's
Brian.
the other one. It's all due respect.
With
all
all
due
due
respect.
Yeah,
I'm about to say something totally
get
disrespectful.
You're going to get
exactly. Tell me about SeatGeek here, Brian. What's SeatGeek.com?
One of the things I really enjoy, I've been working with SeatGeek for a long time, and they've got millions of tickets, whatever your ticket needs are. The thing I like, you need to go, even if you're not in the market for tickets, go to the SeatGeek app. Because if you are, obviously it's the place to go, because they got all the analytics. They tell you what the pricing is, what's a good deal and what's a bad deal. I don't mind overpaying for a good ticket. I just don't want to overpay for a bad ticket. I remember legendary Art Rooney always used to say, I don't mind overplaying for a good player. I just don't want to overplay for a bad player. But you go use the SeatGeek app, and particularly now during the Super Bowl, if you're in the market for tickets, it's all about the timing. Right, early, late. When can I get the ticket?
Right.
Average resale price is about $5,800 right now, and so it's you need to be the informed consumer. It's kind of fun to watch, as I will all week. People looking for tickets and up and down. And the key now, if you're a Patriot fan, you want a ticket, go buy a ticket over on the Rams site, because they're tracking lower right now at a price. You can get a better ticket price. So go to SeatGeek.com, put in the Super Bowl 300 promo code, and you're going to get. When was the last time anybody got your money back? Right? Yep. I'm a full service guy here.
$300 off Super Bowl tickets by entering SB300, and you can stay informed at SeatGeek.com Super Bowl ticket tracker. Brockman, you'd have no problem being a New England fan sitting amongst the Los Angelinos
for $300.
The Los Angelinos
no
are
problem.
they're very sensitive. We're nice people. Like, I don't know if we want to sit with New England fans. I mean, what if I have to cheer New England? You don't have that problem. No. Yeah, right.
I'm from LA. I know for a fact that if it turns bad enough, you could whip on that New England Patriot hat, and with I'm going to be with the winner right at it. If I got to change gear, I'm hitting my own people here because I'm from LA.
No,
so
hey,
you're
man,
allowed to do that.
I got to be honest with you. When the Rams drew the Cowboys as their home game in the division round, I'm like, because the Cowboys fans are going to take up half the stadium, and that was not the case, right?
No, I was surprised at the number of LA fans.
They exist
it's like
now.
Our thing. I'm not saying they're front runners. Right?
I'm just saying.
I'm from LA. I know my people. They'll turn in a minute.
At Coach Billick on Twitter. He's a great follow. I follow him. Check him out on the NFL Network. He's part of the 8.5-hour edition of NFL Game Day Morning, starting at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on Super Sunday, that I am proud to be hosting from minute one to minute last. Good to see you, Brian Billick.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.